Gerard Scarpaci here, co-founder of the Hairbrained community, and super excited for today. We're in the studio with one of my all-time favorite hairdressers. I mean that truly from the heart, totally well-rounded, cutting, styling. I even learned today that she does some color. Ruth Roche, and we're here for number 4 in our Professionals Who Practice series. We kind of joined forces with Pivot Point to just get out that message that no matter how great you are, even if you're one of the most respected hairdressers in the world, like Ruth, you still practice all the time, and we've been talking about that. This mannequin that she has here, she's had for years. This is her, this is her best friend. This is one of the Elizabeths, and Ruth's been practicing on it for years, and she's got a couple other girls joining us here today. She's going to be doing at least 3 complete looks for you, and we're so excited to have you here, Ruth. So tell us what you're starting off with here with Elizabeth.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here too, and you're one of my all-time favorites.
Well,
and
thank you.
Hi. This is Elizabeth, and I've layered her hair a little bit. She's my go-to gal. Like, she's the client in the salon that has some layers and wants a cool braid or wants something. So I work out a lot of ideas on her. And what I'm going to do, this is just a quick thing that hi. Can we start over? This is just a quick way to create volume in the back. So it's going to be up, but it's going to be very loose looking. And we've been doing braids for a long time. I'm going to be utilizing a braid, but what I'm going to do is a 3-strand. Some people call it a DNA braid. I kind of look at it as a 3-strand fishtail, because it's the same concept as that. So I've prepped her hair. I used a Root Lift, which is a Pureology product, but it's basically to create volume and create texture and a little bit of grip in the hair. And then I blowed it dry. I blew it dry, and then I just took from the ear up and over the top, and I'm taking the back. You see I have a little bit of texture iron in there at the base, and she's just kind of ready to go when I need her. So here's my 3 strands. What I'm going to do is take a piece from the outside of the right-hand side, bring it under, and then over the center, and then connect it to the other side. So I still have 3 sections in my hand. And I'm going to take a piece from this side, go over the side, under the center, and join it to the right side. So then I've got 3 sections again. Take a piece, bring it under, over the center, and then into the left, and then take a piece from that side, just like a regular fishtail, and bring it under the center and connect it to the right. So I'm just going to continue doing that. And so basically the middle section never gets anything done to it. We just keep winding hair around either above it or under it. Like in this case, we're going under. And then here, we're going to go under the right and over the middle. Center. Yeah. Can you see that?
Couple shout outs for our friends that are watching. Gordon Miller, the CEO of Hairbrained, is watching. And we've got Anna Pacito, our good friend from Montreal, another amazing hairdresser who we'll be working with soon at the Intercoiffure Atelier. And we've got people watching from all over the world. We've got the Philippines, we've got Scotland, Mexico. Thank you all for tuning in. If you're just joining us, we're here for number 4 in a series of 6 called Professionals Who Practice. And the idea is there's so many of us who are educators that are successful and established, and we really truly believe that to get there you have to keep practicing every day. Hairdressing is a craft that if you're not getting better, you're getting worse, is the truth. And the only way to get better is to keep practicing every day. You can't just go out once a week and do a class and be a great hairdresser. And Ruth and I were talking about this mannequin, this Pivot Point mannequin that she's working on, this Elizabeth, you've had for a number of years.
Yes, I don't know how long I've had her, but she's had several color services, and I've done a lot with her. And the only thing I did cut-wise on her was just give her some more layers, so she's more like an everyday client, so I can try stuff on her.
And how often do you pull the mannequins out of the cupboard? You said you had over 50 at home.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And I have a hard, just like stuffed animals when you're a kid, I have a hard time giving them, getting rid of them.
You're a mannequin hoarder?
Yeah. And so I probably get them out once a week, but I'll have them out for 3 or 4 days, just sitting around so that I can work out an idea. And because I teach, I'm always needing to come up with, fun things to do, and also just to keep from getting bored, Like here I'm doing a 3-strand DNA braid, but we could do just a regular 2-strand or whatever. This is just going to give us more texture and another way of creating volume in the back of this look, which is going to be very loose and undone. So even though I'm doing this DNA braid, it's not going to end up looking like that when I'm done. I'm just using it to create, well, you'll see. So practice, practice, practice. And for me, there's a lot of times I will wing it, but it's on a guest, but it's nice to have things in your back pocket as a go-to, and to work out those go-tos on mannequins is just a nice way to do it.
So how often are you doing that? Is that something you do on a regular basis, where you pull them out and practice some braiding?
Recently we were doing a training for Pureology, and we were going to be teaching a bunch of new looks to all of our artists, and so all of that had to be worked out, practiced, timed, doing things like many, many times to practice, so that when you go to teach it, you know how you're teaching it. Like if you do in your salon, you have an apprentice program. If you have these around, not only for them to practice, but also for those that are training them to practice training. It's a train the trainer tool as well. So you can see how we turn that, it twists itself. So this side
like
side
a cobra.
here. Yeah. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take and cut the top elastic.
So Ruth's got a lot of love coming in. Joanne Morrison needs a braiding mannequin, and she can get one at pivot-point.com. So if you're out there and you want to get one of these mannequins, check out pivot-point.com. Nellie Sermon Lawler, you should see my face. Now that plate makes sense to me. So that braid, they say plates in the UK.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Yes.
So lots of love coming in, and thanks for sharing this. And again, you can explain it again because lots of people just joined in.
Okay.
So give us an overview of how you're doing that technique.
So basically it was 3 strands, just like you would start a regular braid. And then what I did was I took a piece from the outside of the right, wrapped it around the right, up and over the center, and then joined it to this side, took a piece from the outside of this, wrapped it over, and then under the center. So you get both sides are like that, for lack of a technical term. Now what I'm doing is ruching this and really pulling it apart. And I'm going to just take this elastic down a little bit so I get some more slack. And the idea is that I'm not worried about it looking like a DNA braid anymore. I'm using it to create volume and some texture that is undone looking. There's a lot of times with looks that are up, they can tend to look like they're tight, and this gives it some security because it's all twisted into itself, but it gives it also the texture that you're going to see there. So what I'm going to do is take this now.
Ruth, is there just a never-ending variety of braids? It seems like there's so many different ways to braid hair.
Yeah, I mean, just when you think you can't either do it anymore because you're over it, or there's nothing new to do, there's always something to do. And I'm going to show you something else using a really simple concept, but then breaking it in. So there's always more to be done. I'm taking this out now because I've had it.
And do you feel that like through kind of practicing on your mannequins, you come up with like different variations of the braids? Do you like start off like maybe with something that you already know and then say, okay, well, here's something totally different?
Yeah, totally. Like taking what you would normally do and then do it backwards, or, in this case, taking the concept of just adding from the outside of a strand, like a fishtail concept, and doing it for 3 strands. So did I even answer your question though?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what I'm doing here is
in your own unique way.
Oh, all over the place, in other words. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking a big bobby pin, I'm going into the braided part, and then I'm going to push it flat to the head and back the opposite way. So that way we're building that security in there. We've got the security from the braid, and you can see how it just gets I don't know. It just gets like that.
It's just beautiful.
It looks beautiful for here.
I love the texture that's on the surface there and the way it works with the color. So you said at one point you colored this mannequin.
Yes. I actually highlighted it twice. So I did it
just to kind of increase the texture and the,
and then
separation.
you can see the detail of what you're doing too. So what I'm gonna, this is like so simple and so great for everyday salon life. That's why I'm starting with this, because it gets a little more exciting as we go.
No, this is super exciting. So it started with a panel in the nape with, I think you called it like a DNA braid?
Yeah, so I took from the back.
Why DNA? Because it's like the triple helix?
Yeah, because it twists itself like a DNA.
Triple helix. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then you kind of just pulled it apart, or what you call rouged it?
Yep.
And then you twisted it up and pinned it into this beautiful kind of flower type thing.
Yeah, and the cool thing is that it, even though we did it as a braid, all it does is make it look like there's hair wound in and out and all around, and but it happened fast,
right?
You know,
there's a system to create this organic, beautiful thing. Where it looks like maybe you placed it one hair at a time. It was actually because of the way the braid just gathered up on itself.
Yeah.
Okay, so now there's more. That's just step number one.
And you can see how by cutting the elastic, you get some bagginess in there, which is what you want to see. Now I'm going to take the side and I'm going to twist it back off the face. And then I'm going to take and just pull, let me do it with this hand here, pull pieces away. So we start to, again, create volume within that piece and dimension.
That's such a beautiful, simple thing to do. Ruth and I were talking earlier that I tried to get a little bit into being a better hairdresser / stylist, and I took a 5-day class with Sharon Blaine, and we practiced on our mannequins for 5 days. And I'd say what you just showed me there was one of the main things that I took away that was so simple and beautiful to do. When you want to just kind of twist the hair, pull it apart like that, and then pin it, and very, very romantic.
Yeah, and super easy. You know, and God knows we need that in the salon, you know. And when we have 1,000 bridesmaids to do, you know, we just get that automatically.
Absolutely. If it's overly technical and you're stuck there for an hour on one head and there's 8 girls waiting and the anxiety is building. Again,
and the mother of the bride is.
This is incredible. So let's walk us through this again. Okay. So you just took that panel, twisted it.
Twisting it back. I'm going to move over here.
Shout out to my buddy Jeremy Hickson. Thanks for joining us again, and thank you to everyone from all over the world. Thank you, Carson, for acknowledging how much you're learning here from Ruth. She's one of the best there is. All right, so walk us through this simple little twist and pull.
So I've taken the sides, and you can see I've got very organic sections. It's not about it being perfect partings, because it doesn't matter, and we want it to look, you know, more organic. So I'm twisting that. If you twist it too tight, you can't pull pieces away. So I'm just going to let it unravel a little bit. And then I'm just going to pick up a few pieces. I'm loosening my tension at the bottom so that I can start to pull little pieces away. So I'm skipping. So there's one there. I'm skipping about 1 inch, pulling another piece, and then another inch, and pulling a piece. So I never kind of let go here, but I want to keep it tight enough that it doesn't completely unravel. So once you get your texture in there, then you can bring it around, and depending on what you want to see, you can place it. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to go over to where my I can't speak English. I act like it's just today, but it's every day. That's where the words thing.
I think you're obviously a very right-brained person.
Yeah.
That's what I, you know, from the years of knowing you, you go into right-brain mode and you're super visual right now, right? So it's like, and I think it happens to a lot of us as hairdressers, you know. We're so visual because we're looking at what's happening, and then the words get away. It usually happens towards the end of the appointment, right? Where all of a sudden you can't even remember what you're talking about because you're so into the refinement.
Totally. And I call it going into your hair spaceship.
Yeah, go into your hair spaceship. Awesome.
All right, we'll deal with that in a minute.
Lots of love coming in from all over the world. Our good friend Anna Pacito says it's so fab and effective. Have you guys ever been on stage together?
No, I want to be.
I'm going to make that happen.
Yeah.
I want to do an all-female educator teach-in.
We've been talking about getting together for 100 years.
Well, I'm going to make it happen. That's
Okay.
my mission in life is to have you guys on stage together.
That would be so fun. Okay, what I'm doing now is I'm pulling this over to the side. You could do it straight back if you wanted. I'm going to go with it coming over to the side. And I'm pulling it over this way. I'm going to twist it. But keep it flatter here. And twist it back. And then we're going to end up with taking a piece, pulling it. And I'm just literally grabbing like 10 hairs with my fingernail.
We have a question coming in from Erica Bice. She struggles with bobby pins. She sees you're using larger pins. Is that where the struggle ends? I love updos, but struggle with keeping them secure.
Yeah.
So any tips on bobby pins or hair grips or whatever the preferred name
Word
is?
for it.
Yeah.
So this is a large bobby pin. Our British friends out there call them a grip. And it's like getting a grip.
You get very offended when you call them bobby pins.
I know.
It's a grip.
So I'm keeping it closed. That's key. And see where my fingers are holding the hair now? I'm going to go in with the pin until it hits the head. Then I'm going to turn it so it's completely flat to the head and push the pin in. And what that does is it takes the hair that's underneath and it confuses it. And it gets it all mixed up together. So there we go, in, flat, and push the pin back. And then you can always pull the hair out around it afterwards. Okay, so see how this just came unraveled a little bit? That's okay. I'm going to place it. Let me just see what it's looking like from the front.
So Doc Carrigan says it's coming together really fast. I like that for the impatient client.
Oh, yeah.
And that's kind of what the trick is here with these braids and twists, that you get a lot for a little, so to speak. The end result visually is really like, wow. But it's just a very effective way to execute it, isn't it?
Yeah, except when it comes undone like mine just did.
But that's part of, it's so important now. What did you do to go back and do it? Because it's going to happen to everyone out there.
Yeah,
this is why we practice, right?
Totally. I just twisted it the same direction again, and it was already sort of pulled apart, so it's all good. I'm going to use now a smaller grip or a bobby pin, and I'm going to go into the twisted piece back on itself and down, so that will hold that in. It's such a great trick that I learned a while ago from Martin Parsons.
One of the all-time greats.
The master of long hair.
Such a charming man as well.
Yeah.
Just if anyone out there hasn't had a chance to see Martin Parsons perform live, anytime you're at a hair show, just sit down and you'll be treated to a real class act.
Totally.
Incredibly talented and humble and sharing. Another person that we love.
I'm just going to take and create a little bit of separation there. I'm using a working spray. This is Pureology's Strengthen and Control hairspray, which she's been styled probably 20 times and not shampooed. So it's got a lot of spray in it already, but it's nice to work with something that is going to allow you to do it again and again and brush it out, and that way you're not stuck with it forever. I'm just tightening that up a little bit.
Beautiful, lots of love. This great comment from Carson Meek. Love, love, love. You just made my prom and wedding season stress-free. Loving the natural boho romantic looks you're showing.
So cool. Thank you. So that's
Elizabeth. Who we're
Walking
moving
down the
to
aisle.
now.
Beautiful. Going to the prom. Hey. Okay.
Cal, you can show we've got a beautiful collection of our pivot point girls here. We've got a couple of Vanessas who have the most gorgeous head of hair you could ever imagine. Thick, solid form, very, very long. It's the longest mannequin. And now you're going to be working with the Josephine, which is also solid form, but a little bit less length than the Vanessa. So again, lots of people out there are asking about different mannequins that they could use for practicing braiding And these are definitely two of the really popular ones with length and density. The Josephine and the Vanessa, and those are some of the ones you're working on now. So, hello, Josephine. Say hello to the audience.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what do you have for us now?
She has that same look in her eyes, that far away look.
They're all sisters,
Yes, they are. So, I shampooed her and just let her dry naturally. So it's got a very natural texture to it. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a look that we did for Maria Cornejo for Fashion Week just recently. And the idea is that it just sort of happens. So it's got a very loose
want to give a shout out to Peter Gray. Our buddy Peter Gray is watching. Another super exciting stylist.
Yeah. All right, so in the hair spaceship, just for a second here. And what I'm doing is almost like a comb over. So the parting is very far over on the side. Get a little bit of water. Is this okay where I am?
Perfect.
Okay. And then what we're going to, I'm sorry, I'm all over the map here. There we go. I'm going to bring it over to the other side. Around the back. And we're just going to catch it there. Let's section this out of the way. And a lot of times too, we spend all this time putting product in the hair and blow drying it and smoothing it out, then adding texture, then blah blah blah. This we're doing it all at once. So we're styling it and putting it together at the same time. So this is called Levitation Mist. It's from Pureology, and it's a great texture spray, even though that's not what it was made for. As stylists, we always do what we're not supposed to do, right? And I'm just spraying that into the hair. It's going to give it some grip and some texture. And then I'm just going to slick it back.
So Ruth, tell us a little bit about your role with Pureology. I know you're working as kind of like a global artistic director, and you're out there almost every weekend teaching and doing classes. Do you use mannequins in the classes to teach the students?
A lot of especially the cutting classes, we do use mannequins. And there's some greater, more economical choices like Ellie and Erica, which are, they have a good amount of length on them to do cutting classes. So I do a lot of those, and, well, that doesn't look right. Hang on. Oh, thank you. I'm in the wrong place.
So, with Pivot Point, there are definitely, probably a dozen different variations of mannequins that you can use. Some are more ideal for cutting because the lengths and the densities are a little bit less. They even have smaller head shapes. You mentioned Erica. Yeah. Erica is one I use a lot in my classes because you can get the same lesson kind of in less time. It's kind of like a smaller head, but everything's there. But then for styling, when you need this beautiful lush hair, you've got the Vanessa and the Josephine. They've got beautiful density and lots of length. Yeah. Almost ashamed to cut these guys.
I know. I always feel guilty. I do it sometimes though when I decide to pull it out of the hoarder collection.
Yeah. You're a mannequin hoarder. Well, you should see at my house. When Hairbrained started doing this with Pivot Point, they sent about a dozen tripods and about 50 mannequins to my house.
Oh wow!
And it's been very hard for me to part with them because I have them all piled up, and they come in these beautiful white boxes that say Pivot Point on them. I made like a pyramid of boxes, and then Kelly has slowly been making sure that I let the educators use them. So Ruth is you're taking one of my girls.
I'm sorry. Wow.
Well, enjoy.
Thank you. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take and use the Levitation Mist all the way around the edge of this parting. I'm going to spray a little bit of it all over. And then I'm going to use my dryer, if you could put my hand into it.
My pleasure. That's a loud one, so you're going to have to scream a bit.
Okay. Ready? Oh, wait, not yet. Not till I turn it on. There we go.
So talk really loud.
Okay, I'm going in. I'm using my mini gentleman brush.
So really just grabbing and getting root lift?
Yeah.
So pull.
Up and over. I'm using my Chris Sorby.
Awesome. And that's like a little lock movement there, huh? Where you grab it. Let's make sure she's on tight. So you come in and just grab it at the root and pull it.
I'm brushing away from the parting. Brush is flat. Push back, twist, and catch it, and pull. So I get a lot of tension right at the root there.
And you can see the way the product is just automatically drawing into the root. What was that product again?
It's called Levitation Mist from Curology.
It works. It's levitating.
And so what I'm going to do on the other side is just, I'm just going to grab this. I'm just going to take and just put a little bit of air in there to move it around. So you can see how fast we can get that texture going in there.
So all that was just really to direct and control the roots?
Yeah, so we can get that comb over feeling going on. Now what I'm going to do is take a little bit more of the Levitation Mist to put a little bit more texture in there. So whether you're working on like editorial stuff or you're working on, you know, in salon stuff that you're trying to work out, mannequins are such a great way because, like, for example, in this case, I had to work out the look before we went and presented it to not only the designer, but then a way to show the team what we were going to be doing beforehand. Because at Fashion Week, when you do a show, you have no time to sit there and teach it all. And so you've got to do it quickly.
So this was a look that you did at New York Fashion Week for designer, and you kind of tested and had to show. So you practiced it beforehand on your Josephine to get your idea down.
Yeah, like
and
where
then,
the partings are, and you know the steps behind.
And what's that
it.
like? Then you go in and they bring in like a real model, and you kind of show them your idea on the model.
On the test, yeah. So the makeup artist is there. You know, usually the show producer and the designer, and everybody kind of works together to create a look that everybody's happy with.
So how do you differentiate? So the last look that you did, which again, Kelly, if we can get a quick shot, I'll take it, was very kind of salon, prom, wedding friendly. You know, we're getting lots of love coming in for that type of, let's call it an updo. Now here you said you're going more editorial. How do you differentiate? What are some of the differences between editorial and salon friendly?
Well, editorial usually, in my opinion, is a little bit more edgy, you know, and it makes more of a dramatic statement as opposed to being safe. It's not so safe, and a lot of it's what we see in fashion editorials and magazines or on the runway. It's never like a do. So
there's a lot of like subtle textures and things like you're doing here. I see you've got a very large barrel iron.
Yeah.
And you're just wrapping it around freeform, so obviously not trying to make like a real defined curl.
Nope. And I'm just leaving I haven't put a comb through it at all. It's all except to make that parting and to pull that side back. So all this is doing, and I'm taking little pieces on the surface because this is going to come over. There's no need for me to go into all that stuff underneath to create a texture because all I have to do is do the surface.
So you kind of swept all the roots over in this direction, and now all the hair that's going that way, you're just kind of bundling it together and putting some bend and texture in it.
Yep. And just taking the surface, just pieces here and there. And then like underneath, for example, instead of picking up a section with my comb, I can just go in and take a piece right out of this underneath.
Yeah, everyone out there that's asking questions about the tripods and the mannequins, this is all done by Pivot Point. This is our Professionals Who Practice series. We got together with our friends at Pivot Point who have a legacy of being educators and supporting educators, making incredible tools for educators. And this tripod that we're using here is their kind of creme de la creme. It's the universal swivel tripod. So this thing is built to last, super hardcore in all the hardware, and the head spins around completely. Yeah, we're using, it's like if you just pull that thing down, you pull that down and just spin away.
Woo!
So that's great for educating, and then when you find where you want to be, you just lock it in.
Which I am
You
not
forget
doing
to do.
because I'm
I
in
know,
the
that's okay,
airspace
because you're in the hairspace ship.
I am.
And there's probably at least a dozen, probably more variations of mannequin heads for cutting, styling, coloring. Today here we're using the Josephine, which is wonderful for styling. We're also using the Vanessa. They've got long, dense hair, and they're all available at pivotpointshop.com. They can take you directly to the shop. They've got other amazing educational tools there as well. So support those who support us. Great education from Pivot Point. And thank you, Ruth Roche, for sharing your education here. Oh, this is looking good. I'm going to get back to you now, Ruth.
All right. So what I'm doing, oh, sorry, is my hair in the way? Is looking at what's happening here, getting it coming down and across the forehead. And then we're going to bring it back behind the ear. Even something like that, just leaving it undone. And if I did this with a comb, that wouldn't happen. You know, it wouldn't have that look. So now, remember underneath here, it's all mixed up. I'm going to go in with my pins again. And this time I'm using the small ones. And I'm going in. And then twisting it back, pushing it back. So going in to it this way, straight up, all the way over, and then back in. So we start to place that there.
Starting to make a beautiful silhouette and profile. Again, very editorial. This was a look that Ruth did from Fashion Week. Definitely deliberately textured and messy, but with a purpose. Again, we've had a much more classic look done earlier here, so we've got something for everyone. So again, Ruth started off with a beautiful classic look here, doing braiding and pulling it apart and twisting it, and now she's moving on to a more editorial look. Something definitely a bit more edgy and fashion forward.
Just running my fingers through it again, and right now what I'm going to do is take I'm back to big ones, back to big bobby pins, and I'm replacing my fingers with the pins. So we keep that look of it having fingers run through it. So just going in, and we
Oh, Wascally Wabbit.
Willie, excited about this, is it looks like a ponytail, but it's not. You know, it's kind of a sort of ponytail. And when we worked with Maria Cornejo, when Pureology was doing this show, Maria wanted it to look like the girl just showed up like that, but a little bit more modern.
And you get that a lot at Fashion Week, don't
Totally.
you? I mean, nobody there is looking for anyone to look like a wedding or prom hair. It's a very different thing. A lot of texture, a lot of really kind of messy hair, deliberately.
Yeah. And that kind of hair sometimes is the hardest hair to make secure, you know, which it needs to be because they're changing 6 times during the show and ending up, you know, a lot of times having to pull things over their head, and so it's got to be secure. So what I'm doing now is just looking at, I'm going to do this the way I'm supposed to.
Pull it down, yeah, turn it, there you go.
Oh my God.
See, it's super easy. That is the universal swivel tripod.
That is cool. So, just looking at what's happening here.
So again, just controlling the roots, then putting a little bit of texture with a very large barrel, and then pinning to get this organic kind of... And who was the designer that you did this look for?
This is Maria Cornejo in Zero, and it was cool. You know, like whether someone had shorter hair or this longer hair, even longer than this, we can still... Thank you.
Draped across the face, you can see the root control here, slicked back. And then large barrel texture. And now, you know, here's the thing. When you do these kind of deconstructed, messy looks, how do you know when you're done? You know, because it's easy when you do a French twist. When it's all twisted, it's done.
Right.
But how do you know here?
Just looking at it from all angles. You know, looking at the shape, looking at the profile, looking at the front. And it's really, you know, just using your eye to see what you want to change, you know, and just taking these bits and making them look like she drove in a convertible on the way to the show.
I hear that line a lot when it comes to Fashion Week.
Yeah, yeah.
Bridget Bardot in Monaco in her convertible.
and then just letting that sort of come out from the head a little bit more, so it has a little more, like it's moving, you know, like the hair's blowing away. So,
awesome. So that's a great fashion-forward look on the Josephine. Let's have a look at our first look again. Maybe we'll pop this guy on here for those of you that like a little bit more classic hair. Ruth is demonstrating a multitude of looks today using her pivot point mannequins. Here was more classically braided and then kind of pulled apart and pinned into this more beautiful kind of prom wedding look that everyone loves so much. Then we went into something very, very editorial with the second look. What do you have for us now?
And now it's all about Vanessa, who has much longer hair.
Vanessa's got the longest, thickest head of hair.
Vanessa's
ever.
amazing. So what I'm going to do now is everyone has seen or done a ladder braid, and just in case you haven't.
Well, I haven't.
You haven't,
No.
okay. What I'm going to do, I've just taken her hair and put it in a ponytail just to show you how to simply do this. So I'm going to take a small piece from the outside, slightly around the back of the section, and I'm going to make a loop, bring it over the top, gather it between my two fingers, and pull it through. Then what I'm going to do is do it again. I mean, if this was a real look and this was my finished look, I would have covered the elastic, but I just want to show you how it happens. Now we've got two. So if I want to add length to this piece here, what I'm going to do, use a little bit of spray, add a piece so we get our extra length there. Spray those together.
So now going into a much kind of more sleek dressing, would you say?
Yeah, so this is more about braiding and using braids to create a nice pattern in the hair. So that's 3. I'm just going to do a couple more so you get the idea.
So just break that down for those of us that are terrible braiders like me. I was told by Sharon Blaine my fingers were too fat and my hands were too sweaty.
That's so sad.
She was very honest though.
Yeah.
I tried.
I think it's
week.
harder for guys sometimes, you know?
It is.
Because you have like paws.
Yeah, look at these things.
So what we're doing is we're taking a piece from the outside of the ponytail, creating a loop on one side. The strand comes underneath the ponytail, around the top. I'm gathering it between my two fingers and pulling it through and never letting go. So I'm holding on to this while I pull that tight. So you can see how we're starting to build up a pattern on the side of the hair. So that's what we can do. We can also do it the other way, where we're going to create a loop coming underneath on this side and bringing it through to the opposite side. So you can do it that way as well. So the reason I wanted to show you that is for my last look, I'm just going to switch her out for my other Vanessa.
So this is the same exact mannequin. This is a Vanessa. This, you can see the beautiful length and density. If you're at home and you want to practice braiding before a big event, or you want to practice any styling at all, this is the creme de la creme of mannequin heads, the Vanessa, available at pivotpointshop.com.
Okay, so prepared her hair with, guess what, the levitation mist from Pureology. Sprayed it into slightly damp hair, like almost all the way dry, and then blew it out with a round brush just to get a nice smooth texture. What I've done is I've put a center part. Sorry if I'm making you guys nauseous by turning in so many circles. That's a side part, not a center part. And I just placed it coming back slightly at an angle towards the top. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use the concept of a ladder braid that's attached. So I'm going to add to it as I go. So my first section is going to be sort of a triangle up here from there to there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my ladder braid.
So as Ruth gets started, I'll catch everyone up because so many people have just joined in the past few minutes. We're here for our Professionals Who Practice series. We're with Ruth Roche, one of the most respected educators, hairdressers in the country, if not the world. And she's sharing with you some of the things that she's been practicing on for Fashion Week and also for for Fashion Week and for some classes that she's been preparing. She's got over 50 mannequin heads at home, and she's always practicing with them. So we said, let's get into the studio and show people how even accomplished hairdressers continue to practice to come up with new ideas. She's working here with Vanessa, this beautiful head of hair here, and showing you a new kind of braid technique that she's been working with.
You know what?
Take it away, Ruth.
Okay, you just reminded me of something else. That some of the mannequins I have at home, I've actually buzzed off with the clipper, and you can draw sectioning patterns on them for like haircutting classes. You can also, and those are the ones that I've cut and then scissor over comb, and the hair's just gone. I'll start over.
Well, we were just talking about that too. You know, even though you're such an accomplished hairdresser, you said you want to get better at barbering.
Yeah.
So that's kind of one of your goals for the year, isn't it? And you're going to be hanging out with our good buddy Kurt Kiefner.
Yes, I'm so excited.
It's amazing.
Yeah, the master barber. Okay, so here's my section. I'm taking a small piece, and what I'm going to do is create my loop on the left, pull it through, and then I've got my first section. So now what I'm going to do is add this in. So I just have one piece in my hand now. Whereas before we would take this piece and keep going with it and create the ladder all the way along this section. I'm going to grab another piece just from the hairline. I'm going to do the same thing. So loop on this side, wrap it around, and pull it through. I'm just pulling that down below the parting. There we go. So I'm just going to continue doing that. Piece from here. Loop it around back to the left. Pull it through with the right. And then making sure that we keep that tension there. You know what? Let me just go back, start again, because I lost my tension. So here we go. And you want to keep this as tidy as possible as you go. So here we go, one piece, take a piece, pull it through. And I'm going to stand to the back of her and off to the side. So I'm going to be elevating the hair out from the head as opposed to flat, flat, flat. And that's going to give me a little bit of drape here when I go to pin it across the back.
What are some tips you can offer to keep your tension even throughout the process?
Well, my rule is something's always got to be holding it. One hand or the other, or a clip or something like that. Because if we don't have that, then we do lose our tension. Like right now, I'm holding on to this thicker piece with these two fingers, or all of these, so that I can use these two. So there's always something holding it. And let's see here, I put the piece between these two, coming up and around, and then pulling it through. So I've never ever let go. If you let go, that's when you get sad. So coming around, picking up another piece.
So will this continue all the way around the head?
It's going to get really tricky in a minute. It looks tricky, but it's not. You can see how this is easy to do. And it's on darker hair, so you get to see a little more detail when you have smaller sections. If you take bigger sections, you get a totally different look. And it doesn't have, it's not as intricate.
Now, Ruth, I'm thinking back to this basket weave photo that you're kind of famous for. I think maybe it was like a NAHA winning collection where the hair was like woven.
Yes.
And this kind of reminds me of that, the way I can see. And all the color was placed so beautifully. I think it's one of your probably most iconic images.
Yeah.
And was that like a NAHA winning?
That was a NAHA winning avant-garde thing from, 2000 or something. Mm-hmm.
Such a beautiful image. If you ever want to go out there and just see some of Ruth, is there a great place for people to see your work, your finished photos? Website or your Instagram?
Yeah, my website is ruthroche.com. Or who is my friend that asked about tension?
Yeah.
I've got a death grip on this because it has got
Your
to
hand
stay.
is turning blue.
Yes,
Yeah.
look. So what I'm going to do now is take a small piece from the front hairline on this side of the part, and I'm going to bring it over. And remember how you can do this for either side. What I'm going to do here is loop it around from underneath the right-hand side.
Let's see that one more time, I'm sorry.
Sure, because I screwed it up anyway. Here we go. Take a piece. Bringing the loop around to this side as opposed to the other side. So now we're going to start adding to the right as we go. So a little piece from the front. I've got my one section in my hand. Pull it through the other side. And you can see that I'm draping away from the head, so I'm not flat against the head here. Just give myself a second to get cleaned up, and then take another piece. So going in underneath and bringing it through. So what's happening is you're going to start to see a pattern happening on this side as well. Definitely in the hair spaceship right now.
Yeah, you have to be because you're working so visually with your hands that, we were just talking earlier, for those of you just joining us, that most of us as hairdressers go into this kind of right brain space where we have to be very visual and work with our hands. And you can probably relate as a hairdresser when you're behind the chair, you start off the conversation with the client, and as you really get into the haircut, by the end of it, you almost kind of forget what you were talking about because you're in such a visual space. And I think Ruth is a very right brain person, so you can see the connection between the eyes and the hands.
Yeah, and I just started over because I was getting all up in my own grill.
Yeah, and that's what this whole thing is about.
Yeah.
The series that we're working on is called Professionals Who Practice, and the idea is that often you only get to see the finished result of what we do as educators or platform artists or whatever you want to call us, but a lot of practice goes into making that final image, and a lot of it is done with mannequins, and most of us prefer pivot point mannequins because they're the finest quality hair and head shapes and growth patterns that are out there.
Yeah.
So that's what you're experiencing here. We get in the studio. This is our fourth. I've done some on cutting, razor cutting. Lupe Voss did color last about 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Awesome.
Ruth is doing some styling. I'm going to be doing again in about 2 weeks some cutting, some short hair cutting. So I'm going to take some of the mannequins that have already been cut down and cut them even shorter and show you how you can keep getting lessons out of a mannequin. Because one of these, if you're cutting, you should be able to get close to 6 different styles out of them. If you start with something long and work all the way down to a short haircut. And we've also got some barbering at the end of the month. We're going to be in Chicago for the ABS show. Anybody who's out there in Chicago, come join us for the classroom, which we'll be using an Erica mannequin for a cutting class at the ABS show. And then we'll be filming Lady Barber, Sophie Pak, known as Stay Gold, one of the most popular barbers out there right now. And she'll be doing the last installment of the series of 6 of Professionals Who Practice. So let's get back to Ruth. Ruth.
That's Ruth and Roche all mixed together.
Ruth, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ruth.
So you can see how I've gone back to the other side now. And I'm adding to that. So if you look from the back, you're getting a nice pattern in there. I'm going to do a few more on this side again. And it's the concept of almost like a fishtail where you're picking up the piece from slightly behind the hair as opposed to just the side of the hair. And I'm just going to do a couple of those. Continuing with the death grip. Okay, and you can see how my elevation has come out. So when I drop this down, we start to get a drapier feel. And I'm just going to take a small elastic And as soon as you drop it back towards the head, you can see how the parts that are wrapped around the latter part are starting to loosen up. And that's what makes it look cool, because it's like, wow, what is that? I don't know. How am I supposed to know? All right, so I'm just going to bring now that side back. I'm going to use a couple of small bobby pins and just pin that back. Just get my rings in order. And again, so where I'm holding it is where I'm going to go in from underneath and pin it through the part that's twisted. Take another one. I'm going in, and I'm going to go right inside the part that's coming straight this way. One more here. And then one here. Anywhere, because I pulled this away from the head, it's definitely going to fall away, so you just want to secure that so that when she walks out of the salon, it stays. I'm going to go with a big boy here. And then I'm just going to take and create some texture at the bottom.
Just kind of backcombing with the fingers?
Yeah, just taking, because I've got the products in there already to give it that texture. Just breaking this up. I'm going to take my regular comb.
So working from a tight braid on the hairline and kind of draping across into the back into this very, very loose texture. And what do you think this would be appropriate for? Is it something you could see at a wedding, or is it more of a photo shoot type thing?
This is more for a wedding or
Party hair.
Yeah, party, festival.
That's become a whole new
Category,
concept.
yeah, I know.
So we did a little bit of wedding prom hair, a little bit of fashion week hair, and I guess that's what it is. It's festival hair, huh?
Yeah.
And if there was some vibrant color in there, it would be the Mermaid Festival.
Just wrapping that around.
Let me help you turn this girl around.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. So we just pull down, right with this universal swivel, you just pull that down, and then we can turn her around. So you can see the complete.
I'm just going to cover this elastic here. And so having the texture at the bottom is just a little more organic looking. It's not, it just takes it from being, oh, it's a braid to wearable.
Which styling products have you been using? We've had a few questions about what products were used for this.
This I used Pureology Levitation Mist and sprayed that into damp hair, blew it out with a round brush, and then what I'm using here is the Strengthen and Control Hairspray, which is a working spray, so you can use it over and over and over and not end up with a buildup. You can brush it out and change it. So those are my preferred products to use when I'm dressing hair.
That's kind of what you work with exclusively, is the Pureology range?
Yes.
You've been working, what, eight or so years?
8 years I've been with them. I'm their global artistic ambassador, one of them. And do shows and in salon programs and hands-on workshops, all kinds of fun stuff. So it's awesome.
All right, let's get a final spin around. Yeah, put her
Okay.
on there. You can spin her around.
Look, I'm doing it all by myself.
Let's get the rest of the girls in here. Ruth has been busy for us over the past hour. She's taught a bunch of different lessons here using a variety of pivot point mannequins. We've got a kind of fashion look, which was done on the Josephine here, which was something that she did at New York Fashion Week this year. Did a little bit of this kind of braiding lesson and showed how to cover up the ponytail. Beautiful wedding and prom hair on, how long have you had this, Elizabeth mannequin?
At least 8 years.
So you've had this
No,
for
more than that.
more than that.
10
So
or
she's a good
12.
friend of yours. You use her all the time for
Yes.
practice.
We go way back.
She's 12 years old.
Yeah.
And then finished up with this incredible boho braid here. Very, very fun and different. I want to thank you all for joining us, and most of all, we want to thank Ruth Roche, who's a professional who practices, for sharing her love for the craft and for supporting this mission of education. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace out.
Thank you so much.